Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AutoPot Instagram Live. Today, we will have Jason, the managing director of AutoPot Global, on, and he's coming directly to us from the mothership in the UK to discuss all things AutoPot. So I'm going to try to bring him in here, so bear with me because we were having some technical issues. Give me just one moment. And let's see if that works.
Hello.
Yes, great.
There we go. Got
We
it.
got it. Hey, Jason, how you doing?
Not too bad, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Struggling with technology, like always.
Yeah, so I'm the worst for it.
Yeah, no, me too, man. Me too. Well, hey, thanks for doing this. We appreciate it.
That's all right. No
And
worries.
I know everybody's been very excited for it. For people that are not familiar with you, would you want to give maybe just a little introduction on yourself, some of your background?
Yeah, I suppose I started in architecture when I was younger, 19. Then, well, trained to be an architect, got bored of that, went into structural glazing, so glazed buildings, designed all the glass for the Canary Wharf when I was 20. And then went traveling for pretty much on and off for about 7 years. Came back, did a few little things that I shouldn't be doing, ended up going to a place that I shouldn't have gone to, and then came out and started Autopot with £46 because that's all I had, and then the rest, I suppose, is history. And
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, that's it in a nutshell, really.
no doubt, no doubt. And today, Autopot is sold in how many countries are you at now?
I think 60. I think, on a regular basis, probably sales into about 30 to 40, but I think, 60, I think we've sold into 60, 70 countries over the last sort of decade.
It's quite a ways. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
too bad.
Awesome. Yeah. Good, good. Well, yeah, let's see what you have going on in the lab there, in the mothership.
Okay. Do
Yeah.
I just did I just press this circle to turn it
Yeah, just
around?
just just turn it around, correct. Yeah.
Yay. There you go.
Ooh, lovely.
Right. So this is if I stand back a little bit. So this is we call this in the UK a Danish trolley.
Hmm.
So all it is trolley on wheels. They use them in garden centres to put plants on to wheel them about, and commercial growers use them. So all I've got is two 30-litre tanks at the top, supplying three tray to grows. So I'm just playing around with like new stuff, and Luke's asked me if I could grow. Initially, we're having if I can take it down here.
Uh-huh.
I know it flickers on these lights, but the ones above don't. So
I can
Luke
see
asked
well.
me to have a play with silicon to see if I could grow it on there, but we tried it first, and because there's no connection between the silicon and the moisture on the root control mat below, it wouldn't work. So what I did do is put paper towel underneath it. You can see it there. This has got to come out, so I'm not worried. And they all grow fine. These have gone over. And then I've just got these in paper as well. So I'm just looking at alternatives instead of using a media in microherb trays, looking at to see if we can use something that people can just grab from their house, like kitchen towel or something like that, and effectively grow herbs. I did this one last week. I ran out of seeds actually. As you can
Hmm.
see, there's a bit of space, but you can see the principle. That all that is just kitchen paper just on the top there with some
That's amazing.
mustard. And then what I'm doing at the moment, so this is a new product that's coming out, and this is just a prototype. So the idea behind this has come from Medwin actually, and you put this on the tray to grow, where those cubes are, for example. You put that in there. I'm germinating these lettuce here,
Right.
and when they germinate, I will put this in place here, in place there, and drop those in there, and I will just grow live lettuce. And you can if the lettuce is a Rolo lettuce or a cos lettuce, you can probably put them right next to each other. Rolo
Right.
lettuces, they're a bit sort of bushy, and so you might want to cap, a few. So it's really just so that people can grow live herbs and pick them up and sell them, and then they don't have to use any soil as well. So they can just use a Jiffy Cube, propagate, drop it in there, and hey presto, you've got a lettuce that you can pick from all summer long if you want to, or something like that.
I love it.
But
I love it.
and then what else was
Eventually,
there?
the Trader Grow is going to have many additions to it. It seems, it already has so many
Yeah,
uses, and it lends itself
well,
well to just these additions.
yeah, no, if you think about what I've done historically, if you think about the pot divider, that was, when we were at the MJ Biz show, probably what, five,
Right?
6 years ago now.
Yes, yes, I
It
recall.
was one of your growers in California came up and gave us the idea. And I like designing products that complement other products. It seems quite nice to do that, and it works quite well. So, the pot divider for the 8.5 litre pot, or the 2.2 gallon pot, and the 3.9 gallon pot, they just work well. And yeah, things like this with a tray to grow, if I can find as many things, that can complement it, then yeah, I quite like that.
That's
And then
awesome.
another thing I'm playing around with, another type of media. Don't know if you've seen this before, but it's called confetti.
No,
So I put this in yesterday, and what it is, it's paper, and then you wet it up, and you can see it looks like I don't know, it looks like Rice Krispies, but it's
yeah.
wet. And I'm going to put some seeds on that, but there's lots of air in it. So I mean, literally, when it's dry, it looks like this, just like bits of paper,
Oh, right, right, right. Yeah.
and
And
then you just put it.
is that a horticultural like
Yeah,
grade
yeah,
media?
yeah.
Yes, it is.
It is. It is a horticultural product. Yeah, lots of people use it. Commercial horticulture. If you go into the supermarkets in the UK, they do it in little punnets. So they do the microherbs in a little punnet, which is just a tiny little sort of small tray that's probably 3 inches by 4 inches and probably 2 inches deep. And generally they're clear. And they just drop this confetti in there, do the microherb seeds, and then someone's got a little punnet to take home.
That's awesome. That's great. That's great.
Cool.
While I have you on the Trader Grow, could I ask you what
Mm.
was kind of your initial inspiration or motivation behind this particular product? Like, how did you get to the final design, or at least the initial idea for it?
Well, the original concept came from an Indian guy called Suram, who we supply products to now. And I met him in Abu Dhabi, probably, I don't know, about 6 years ago. And we were
Uh-huh.
chatting away, and I didn't realize, but in India, one of the most popular ways to grow tomatoes is in grow bags in India, but in coir. And he said,
Right.
"Oh, have you ever thought of designing, a watering system that will do grow bags?" So obviously that stuck in my mind up until probably 3 years ago when I sat on the drawing board and sat with the designers and injection molders. So I designed obviously a tray for the grow bag, but as it went along, we just by pure luck, it wasn't by design, we could fit 4 standard UK seed trays in the tray. And we're like, oh, okay, hold on, and then we'll make a microherb tray to go in there as well.
Right.
And that's initially where the idea came from Siram in India, actually. So I've taken, quite a few years to put it on the drawing board because it's an expensive tool. It's one
Right.
of the most,
Right.
I mean, the tool for that alone, just that part there, that weighs 5 tons.
Wow.
So you
Oh
can
my God.
imagine, I mean, the size of the tool is huge. It's the weight of probably two, Grand Cherokee Jeeps stuck together,
Jesus.
nearest
Yeah,
on it.
that's incredible. That's
Yeah,
incredible.
so that's basically where the idea came from.
I love it. I mean, I used it this summer, as I was telling you. I grew some giant sunflowers out of
Mm.
it, and everybody in the, everybody's loving it out here. We've actually pretty much sold out this week, and
Yeah, I
people
know.
have just given us nothing but rave reviews about it. So I'm really excited to
Mm.
see the future of it and ways you can innovate around it. One more thing on the Trader Grow. I know that you
Mm.
won a recent award for the Trader Grow. Could you talk a little bit about that award for everybody?
The what? Sorry.
Yeah, I know that recently you won an award for the
Oh
Trader
yeah, yeah,
Grow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we joined over here. It's called GIMA, GIMA, and it stands for Gardeners Industry Manufacturing Association. So, but they're basically one of the leading sort of organisations in the UK that represent the garden centre market over here. They've been going for 42 years, and they support the garden centres and lots of companies like us. And so we joined about 18 months ago. And they've been really, really helpful, with helping us get into, because we're going into the garden centres, as you know, in the new year. And they're great with databases and who to speak to and agents to tie up and things like that.
Hmm.
And so then obviously they have the GIMA Awards every year, which have just finished in October. And obviously they asked us if we'd like to come, and it's a black tie do, and we were like, oh, you know, do we really want to go? You know, it's not cheap, and it's £400 a head, and blah blah
Oh
blah.
God.
And, you know, is it really worth going? Well, you know, and we put the product in for submission for, you know, obviously garden products or garden watering systems in, I think it was June, and we had to go up there, display it, and then they kept chasing us and chasing us, and we were like, oh, we don't know if we really want to go. And they said, well, you really need to go. And we're like, well, what do you mean by that? They went, no, that's all we can say. So we basically asked Lawrence. I said, look, you just ask them outright if we've won or not, and then I'll go. And, so they wouldn't tell us. I went, okay. So myself, Lawrence, and Ray, my wife, went, and yeah, we won. So we're actually the first company in 42 years that's just joined GIMA, and with its first entry to win.
Wow.
We beat Hosel Lot. We beat lots of other companies. So
Wow.
yeah, no, it was really great. And it's, you know, we're really milking it at the moment because, you know, it makes sense really. You know, it is a really good product. You know, and it is my favourite product because it's so versatile.
Me too. I love it.
Do you want me to take you down the other side of the R&D?
Yes, please. Let's see it. Absolutely.
Okay, so this here is another tray to grow that's just got some Listanthius and some rosemary. These are olives, believe it or not. Here, these were taken as a cutting from my olive plants when I was doing a video on the rapid roots cloning or rooting gel. And I forgot all about them. And I'd had the R&D room off last year because we had an insect infestation. And they've just gone mad. You know, they've sat on there for almost a year now. And you can see, if I sort of like, you can see what they're like. They've just gone berserk. And I've done nothing with them apart from sat them on there.
Wow. And they've been there for a year.
They've been in those pots for a year. And they were tiny little cuttings, this big when I put them on. I've never taken an olive cutting, so we rooted the cuttings and then stuck them in a pot, and you can see, you know, they basically want, you know, they want tying up and staking up so that they turn into proper trees.
That's cool.
And I've just taken some carrots out of here, and some tomatoes out of there. I've been sent one of these, which
the grassroots,
the guy Jeremy that's going to get replaced, and then we're going to do a side-by-side trial with this one compared to that one, and probably do some, you know, I don't know what, we haven't decided yet. And then what we got over here, we've got some tomatoes growing in a tray to grow, 5 different varieties. I'm just sort of like, you know, so I've got tomatoes at Christmas. And then I'm doing a trial here, if I come back here. So you've got the grow bag. So this is what it was initially designed for. So in the UK and in Europe, grow bag sort of growing is very, very popular. It's a very, very shallow, you know, sort of, it's only about that deep, you know, probably 4 inches deep.
Right.
And the total volume of soil is only probably 30 litres of soil. So the difference is on this method is you have the spikes in the tray that pierce the base of the bag. So all I'm doing here, I'm just doing trials on the AutoPot liquid feed and another liquid feed from another company, just to see over the next sort of 6 months what the growth is like, what the bricks content of the tomatoes are like, what the yields like, what the plant quality is like. They were the tomatoes were put in there. I think it was the 4th of September this year. So they've already been there almost 4 months, 4 months in January. And, you know, it's fine. It doesn't miss a heartbeat. I mean, the only, not issue, but what you've got to keep an eye on is you can see the roots. If I go down there, you can just see the roots. So the roots will head towards the aquavalve. So every now and again, I'll just break them off. You know, there's no issues with people breaking, you know, roots off. If you think about bonsai pruning, you know, bonsais live for hundreds and hundreds of years. And if you cut their roots, they keep going. So a tomato's not going to miss a heartbeat, really.
Right. It's very convenient just to be able to throw the bag in there. I wish we had. I don't see those longer bags as much here in the States.
I'll tell you what you could do. I mean, I'm surprised no one's done it yet. You know, say for example, someone took a 50-litre bag of can of cocoa or something similar, and then just dropped it on there. You know, you could either do it upright or you could do it side on, and it would work in exactly the same way, and just water it through. Then off you go.
No doubt. We'll have Luke do some experiments in our new our new research and development tent that we have. Yeah. I'm sure he'll be
and then I'm
happy to do
just
that.
really all I'm doing, I'm just getting plants ready for shows that we're doing next year. So traditionally, I'll grow tomatoes up single stems.
Right.
But here, because I can't transport tomatoes on single stems very easily in vehicles, I'm basically creating probably 5 heads on each tomato plant, this one and these over here and over there, so that I've got a sort of a bush, and I can easily transport them when they go to the shows. So that's the reason I'm growing them like that. So yeah, it just makes it easy because they don't travel very well, plants, when you put them in vehicles.
Awesome. That looks great. Great.
What else have we got? So I'm just setting this up. So
That looks very cool.
So
Okay.
I decided what I'd do, because what I did last time, the beginning of the year, I put 3 plants in there and it just turned into chaos. And there were 2 Thai basils, kapow and holy basil, and then parsley, I think I did. And it's just everywhere. I mean, it just turned into a jungle. So I thought, right, I'll be a bit more strategic this time. I'll split this is a 1 meter raised bed. I'll split it into 9, just with the bamboo canes that you can see there. So the central section is where the aquabox spider is, and then obviously I've got the wicks heading out underneath there. So I've got rosemary, parsley, and 2 lots of leeks. And what you'll notice is that because I haven't put anything in this section here, or the closest to me, I've just pulled these wicks up and put them on the shelf.
I see. So they're not active.
Yeah, so they're not active. Until I plant something up, then I'll just leave these out, because there's no point me distributing water from here and down this way because I've got nothing there. So I've just got these wicks pulling the water up and heading in that direction there, just for the time being. And still, till I put some, parsley or whatever in there.
Sure.
1, 2, 3, 4 more herbs to put in there.
And that's great with the spider, because you can just feed certain zones then, if you like. You don't have to use the entire area around it. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's quite, in the early part of the season when people set these up, when you put your plants in, it makes sense to just water them through and don't bother turning the system on straight away. And what I do sometimes in the early part of the season, I'll put 1 down, 1 up, 1 down, 1 up, 1 down, 1 up. And then as the plants get bigger, then I'll introduce the other 6. And then because when plants are small, they don't want to drink large amounts of water. And obviously when they get bigger, then they'll drink more. So
sure.
And then obviously once the roots attach onto the ends of the matting, then they'll start controlling the water that's being distributed to it. One little tip as well, I think it says it in the instructions, but always roll the end of the aquabox spider things and then push them down into the tongues down there.
Okay.
And right down to the bottom, because that helps them grip. If you just put the actual wick so that it's just flat and push it down there, it might not touch the bottom. So if you put a little turn on it, it grips in between this section down there, where the little tongue is there.
Right.
And that helps it grip. It's just a little tip for people, but I think it says it in the instructions anyway.
Nice.
And then what else have I got? So I've got some kale. I did have some cabbages in there, but I've had a problem with aphids in here, so I've just brought some parasitic wasps. So those cabbages, you can see where they were. I've taken them out because they were just riddled with aphids. So I've just left with a bit of kale at the moment, but the aphids now like the kale, so I've got to deal with them. And then I've got some papaya.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
So these papaya, you can see I've got papaya in 15 or 3.9 gallon pots down there. And you can see how twisted that pot is. It's been in that pot since January. That's when I propagated, or maybe a month after, once it was propagated. So the pot.
Will that pot even come out of the tray? It looks like it's ready to.
It will.
Those roots are
struggle, but they're not growing. So I'm under the impression that papaya roots are really, really aggressive and want loads of space, because this is the 50 litre. Or what's that? 12 gallons, isn't it, to you guys over there?
Yeah, it's just under 13.
And they're not growing any taller. They just seem to have stunted.
Right.
So if I look underneath, you can see there's lots of fruit starting to set, but they shot up really quickly because these 2 plants here, they're exactly the same age as the other ones in the 3.9 gallon pots.
So I was going to ask, how old are they? How old is that?
They were. Where is it? They were germinated on the 4th of January this year.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Wow.
they should really go into maybe 150 litre fabric pot, and then I'll probably get another 3, 4, 5 feet out of them. But I really think that they're being restricted.
Right.
And
Is there a
about
different
sorry.
approach for trees as opposed to plants when you're growing trees in a system like this? I
Well,
mean, I guess you're learning as
yeah, I mean, I'm restricted with height in here and everything,
right.
really, so I could only probably go up to 6, 7 feet at the most. I mean, I
Uh-huh.
grew a papaya plant in that I took to Ben's at Plantasia a couple of years ago. I had that up to about 8, 9 feet, so it might just be this variety from Thailand
Right, right.
that just doesn't like its roots restricted. It obviously wants to just keep going. One little tip, and this will make Luke laugh: if anyone has any problems with putting the lid on the XL,
Oh,
just
God.
slide it from left to right. Don't try and put it on and get cross. Just
Yeah.
slide it on; it'll fit nicely.
I saw that. I saw that. Hey, so on the XXL, you recommend not using a drainage layer. Can you talk about like
No,
why that is and how it helps in wicking using a pot that tall?
because it's the size of the pot. If you go to the, say, 2.2 gallon pot,
Right.
you want to put a drainage layer in there because it's quite a small pot. Ideally, you know, or an air base. Air base,
Mhm.
you know, they'll last your lifetime. I just put an air
Absolutely.
base in it, then you don't have to worry about any aggregate at the bottom at all.
100%.
Because you don't want, even though the aquavalve floods and drains and does its thing in accordance to the plant's needs, you don't really want your substrate sitting in 20 mil. So by creating that, when we were kids, our grandparents used to call them crocs, and all they were smashed up terracotta pots, and they dropped those in the bottom of their pots.
Oh,
Then they
okay.
put their compost on top. Exactly the same principle, but because these pots are so large, there's no need to do that because there's so much more forgiving, because there's so much volume, so much more volume of soil or coir or whatever you're using. So it really isn't necessary. I mean, people can still put gravel in there or, you know, or whatever they want to, but the problem is you put pumice stone, you put clay pebbles in there, unless you've seriously treated them, you know, to stabilize them pH and from a pH point of view,
Right.
you're gonna have you kind of, a lot of people don't, you know, they just think all the companies these days, they always say, oh, they're pH stabilized. It's not true. It really isn't true, because I've done trials probably 4 or 5 years ago and tested them, and they, you know, it's clay, it's alkali.
Yep.
So, you know, and, you know, you look at the round ones called, traditionally they were called hydroton. They're actually, their original use was for building aggregates in the Scandinavian countries, where they use the clay pebbles, or the round ones, to mix with cement to insulate the houses better when they build the brick, and the bricks build the houses. That's what they were
Interesting.
traditionally designed for.
I
So
know
they
that.
weren't originally a building aggregate. So if you put pumice stone or clay pebbles at the bottom, unless you've really pre-treated them, you're going to have a, you know, a pH balance for quite a while. So
I
to be
deal with it
honest with
quite
you,
often when I'm troubleshooting
yeah,
with guys, and sometimes just the elimination of that one factor is all that we need to get things back
yeah,
on track. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Great.
yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah, that's pretty much it, really.
Good.
So
Good.
yeah. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I got a few, and you answered some, which is great. One thing, general question, I think it'd be good for you to speak on is,
Mm.
you know, we know sub irrigation is a more efficient than conventional forms of irrigation, but in your opinion, what are some of the other benefits of bottom feeding? Is it, you know?
Well, obviously, I've grown up on bottom feeding because I designed the AutoPot system, so I'm always
Right,
going to
right.
sing its praises. Well, bottom feeding, you're going from the roots up. I mean, people say, "Oh, what about the toxicity or the salt buildup?" Because of the
Right.
way AutoPot works, it feeds from the bottom, and then as the substrate and the roots and the substrate absorb the moisture rises up into the top, towards the top of the soil, and then starts to evaporate at the top of the soil. And people will notice that they have got sort of like a crusty, salty surface on the top of the pots. And that's how AutoPot works. That top 1 to 2 centimeters or an inch becomes quite, you know, toxified. But because it's so high up, there's no systemic take up from the plants or plants' roots down below. So that's why you should never really water through later on in the season if you want to flush your plants, because there's a big myth about when people flushing plants. It's not true, because when you feed a plant fertilizer, whatever plant it is, that plant is taking up fertilizer for its lifetime. And when people come to flush plants, they are not. They think they're removing all the toxicity or all the chlorophyll and all the elements that they previously put in the plant. They're trying to obviously make it lime green or whatever they want to do. There are always going to be elements from the fertilizer still in the plant. All you're really trying to do is to try not flush the plant, but cleanse it. You know, to remove any chlorophyll. I mean, AutoPot. I mean, I did trials a little while ago where I held back on the fertilizer to see how long AutoPot pots held fertilizer for, and that's with tomatoes, and obviously they're quite a heavy feeding plant.
Right.
And it was up to 3 weeks before I started noticing a discolor of, you know, the plant going lime green because it had no fertilizer in it. But going back to, I mean, bottom fed systems, I mean, you're not losing any water. I mean, from our point of view, you're not using any power.
Right.
You know, there are other systems on the market that use a ball cock, but then you have to use a timer with a you know, a battery. But the aquavalve is controlled by the plant itself. So the thing that knows how to water itself best is the plant. Ultimately, you know, there's no one that knows better than the plant. So if you can provide, you know, you stick an aquavalve in a tray, and then, you know, you hold off, you let that plant establish before you start turning the system on full blast, and just work the plant nicely, and then turn it on full blast once the plant's nicely established. That plant is controlling that aquavalve, and then that aquavalve is flooding and draining in accordance to the plant. So, you know, there is nothing like it on the planet, really. I mean, that's, you know, that is simplicity, but also complexity in a little valve. So yeah, bottom fed, and, you know, our ethos, obviously, as you well know, is sustainability and environmental issues and things like that. So if we can save as much water as we possibly can, and you know, and help save the planet a little bit, then why not?
Absolutely.
Because, you know, the water is going to be the most precious source on the planet, you know, in time to come, and people just take it for granted. So yeah. From my point of view, you know, bottom fed, I'm always going to say it, AutoPot. You know, don't get me wrong, I've used pretty much every other system there is on the planet over the last 30 years since I've been a horticulturalist, and, you know, they're all very good. But from my point of view, you know, I can grow off grid. People can go away on holiday, you know, fill up a tank. You know, once you understand the basic principles and don't overcomplicate AutoPot, it works time and time again. That's the problem. People, because it's so simple, people either forget to fill the tank up and put any water in it in the first place and wonder why the plants are dying, or they'll throw 500 different types of fertilizer and boosters and additives in there. Really not necessary. You know, plants are very basic and simple things, no matter what you're growing. And it's ultimately about environment. You know, whenever I speak to someone, the three key words are environment, environment, environment. And you've got those right, then, you know, you're 95% of the way there.
Yeah, I'm working against that kind of thought process, because it's counter to what what people are bombarded with within the hydroponic industry. It's you need this, you need this, and it's just taking things away and teaching people that a lot of these things are they're not essential at all to the plant. So no, that's wonderful. And I think, you know, in addition to all of that, you know, speaking on how environmentally friendly it is, also, you know, so many breeders, especially out here in the US, tell me that this system brings out the best representation they've seen in their genetics. You know, so if you can get that, and you can save water and save the environment, it's just you're bringing a lot of things together. So that's wonderful. One more thing I'll ask you too is, over the years, what is the most unique way you've ever seen somebody use your technology? What's maybe the craziest, or you know, when you saw it, you were like, "Ooh, man."
I think the most stupid thing is seeing people put the aquavalve upside down in the tray.
Really? I haven't even seen that one.
I mean, Luke and I have a few giggles when people come out. You think you've seen it all, but, you know, people come up with even more baffling things. You think, well, how did you get to that point? I don't know, really. I'm trying to think. No, I think most people they seem to get it now, and there are loads of forums out there that
Yes.
people can refer to, and they're very helpful, and they don't try and make it too complicated because there's a lot of people on these forums. Unfortunately, there's a lot of forums that give out a lot of misinformation from people who don't really know what they're talking about. And at the end of the day, growing should be simple and it should be fun. Regards to what people have done with this, I don't know. I can't really think of any. I mean, there's been some daft things over the years, but I can't really.
For sure. We have a
Can't
Hall of
think
Fame
of one in particular. No.
Oh, it's okay. That's okay. Well, listen. Last question is: is there anything you want to allude to? That would be coming in the future. As far as things you've been looking at, or products, or.
Well, obviously, we're going to do that live lettuce.
The lettuce thing. Yep.
That's going to probably come sometime this year. I've not even trialed it yet. But in principle, it's been trialed with Medwin using half gutters on the tray to grow with holes cut out at the top, so that the principle works. But I mean, there's hanging baskets. There's
I remember that. That sounds really cool. Yeah.
I've had a prototype of a hanging basket for 6 years now. But you've just, when you're designing big injection molding tools, it's really important, one, that they're going to, you don't always know they're going to work. But what I do, I have 3D prints quite often made of products that are new. And, I need to make sure that they work in principle. The proof of concept is there.
Right.
And you have to look at what you're designing to see, right, will there actually be a market for this? Because the investment, and we've probably got over £1 million worth of injection molding tools now. So, every time you invest in an injection mold tool, the funny thing is people go, can you not just make the tray to grow half the size? I go, yeah, okay, you give me 30 grand and I'll knock that up for you. They think it's a simple process. So I look at what, with regards to the hanging basket, the proof of concept and the 3D print I had made of it works fantastically. But when you cost it and look at simple wire baskets that are lined with Koyo matting and things like that cost you a couple of dollars, you're thinking, am I going to get everybody to be able to sort of jump onto this? I mean, in an ideal world, it'd be fantastic, because over here, hanging basket watering in the spring and summer is absolutely huge in the UK. And I can remember years ago, we did a sort of not a survey, but did a bit of market research to look at if we could find any information of how much water was wasted with hanging basket usage. And the old Wembley Stadium, which is a big football ground, we have over here in Wembley.
For sure.
The reports that were coming back, and this is going back probably 15 years now, that the amount of water wasted in the UK from hanging basket usage alone would fill the old Wembley Stadium every week.
Every week?
So every
week. Wow, that's
so
crazy.
You imagine if I could convince everybody to get rid of their cheap hanging baskets and convert them all to AutoPot hanging baskets overnight, suddenly you've got that volume of water. It's probably 2 Wembley stadiums by now, because they've become even more popular.
Right.
But yeah, no, I mean, there's lots of designs that I've got.
Well, Luke is messaging me. He's asking me about a rack system, like a multi-rack, metal rack system. Does that ring a bell?
A rack system.
Yeah.
Oh, that was for the what was it?
Okay.
So now we've got the tray to grow. The only problem is, and I don't know if you have them over in the US. There's a company over here in the UK called Lush, and Lush sell sort of bath bombs and things like that. Smelly stuff for students to smell nice and things like that. And we did a display for them, and they put them in quite a few stores in Paris and Amsterdam. And all it really was that Danish trolley that I showed you earlier.
Right.
With our old easy to propagate with the cocoa matting and things like that. And it all worked great. The only problem is, once you start introducing live displays into supermarkets or into retail outlets, there is no horticultural experience involved. So you have, hundreds of people passing these plants that may have insects on their clothes that then, attracted to the lights, jump off their clothes, jump on the plants, and suddenly the plants look like shit.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest dilemma with Lush. I mean, there are companies that are doing, fully controlled, growing cabinets and things like that. the problem is that you haven't got a horticultural expert or someone who has a degree of horticultural mouse in a supermarket or in a retail shop generally. So that is the issue. You know, obviously microherbs are easy. You know, anyone can do microherbs. That's why I'm playing around with different types of media with Luke to see if we can get people into the tray to grow, get people growing microherbs because they're so nutritious compared to, you know, if you grow a radish to its full size and eat a microherb radish, there's more goodness in the microherb radish than there is in the actual full radish. So if you can get these into schools or, you know, or into multi-level growing or single level growing microherb companies where they don't have to use any media and they can, you know, or it's just paper, and then it can be easily recycled and, you know, or composted, then it makes life a little bit easier. And you know, you're not using any power to pump any water. You're not using any watering cans. You don't have to be there. So yeah, I think, you know, there's a lot of scope and a lot of sort of potential, but trying to get things into commercial stuff, we tried and we spent quite a bit of money with them, but it never really went anywhere because all the plants just went to shit. Really, people
should grow their own anyways. I'm going to bring mine in and clean it and do some wheatgrass
indoors. Wheatgrass. I mean, wheatgrass. A friend of mine, Dean Finley, you may remember him from the Summer Social.
Absolutely.
He grew on the old Easy to Propagate. I think what he did, he just soaked the seeds, I think, overnight, and then just literally threw the seeds straight on the copper matting.
Oh, really? Okay. I figured I could do that. And then you'll just see the root. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that they grow like mad. I mean, I'll probably get some wheatgrass actually and have a little play because that's how I'll give Dean a call and ask him just how he did it. But I think off the top of my head, that's how he did it. He just pre-soaked them, threw them on there, and then within 7 days he had wheatgrass and he could just literally pick the whole thing off the root control sheet.
Just the whole sheet and have the roots. But yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I'll give it a shot, man. I'll give it a shot. Cool. Jason, thank you so much for doing this. I know everybody appreciated it, and we'll talk soon. Okay.
Cool. All right. Take care. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
No worries. Take care. Cheers. Bye, mate.